what's going on, everybody? You're tuning into another episode of 20 Minutes. I am your host, Tim McCarthy. Today we have on a comedian, a writer, and producer, Joshua Walters. Joshua, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How's everything going for you?
Things are good today. Yeah, it's a good day to be here and be tuning in and get some time with you. So yeah, it's good.
Hell yeah. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, man. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
So I start off with this with everybody. What does mental health mean to you, sir?
Uh, Mental health is the inside environment of your balance and your moods. Could be your thoughts or your feelings, but all the things that you cannot see about someone's health.
Perfect. I like that. Short and sweet. Everyone has a different answer, but it's all the correct answer if you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah.
What is your relationship with mental health?
My relationship is that I have a mental health diagnosis that has given me a opening to explore and uncover certain sides of myself. Also see the creative landscape pretty differently, and also experience some pretty intense moods starting as a teenager and moving on. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll stick with that.
Yeah. So you say you're bipolar. How would you explain that to someone? Because I'm bipolar 2, you're bipolar 1. So we make a bipolar 3. How would you explain that to someone that doesn't know what bipolar is?
Yeah, I would say that it's the intensities of the highs and lows can be overwhelming and uh, crippling to your um, functionality. That's how I kind of look at it. Is everyone goes through highs and lows, and everyone feels intense things throughout their life, but when those feelings are overtaking your ability to function in society as a functional human being, then you may need to seek some help. So yeah.
Yeah. So with being bipolar, I feel like it's always good for me to like meet someone else with bipolar because it's like an exclusive club of there's just crazies. And do you ever have like instances where like we're good people because on one side our mood is like pretty good, but have you ever gotten like nasty with somebody? Because I've gotten nasty with people before and I try not to, and then I get through like this whole regret. Do you ever go through that, or am I just the only one?
Yeah, well, yeah, you can lose friends. You can I've definitely lost business, I've lost burned some bridges, and yeah, I've lost opportunities, openings where, people give you a little leeway if they don't know you. But most of my friends have all come back, but like in the business world, like if you have like if there's a theater or there's an organization and you cross them once, usually you don't have a second opportunity to kind of like build that back. They're just like, okay, that guy is not for us. So those things cannot be repaired.
Yeah, we have very knee-jerk reactions at times where we don't think ahead of time. It's very tough. Does that happen to you as well?
Yeah, I mean I'm more calculated these days, but
Good.
it has happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it hard coming out being bipolar? Because for me, it was a little difficult when you get the diagnosis because you're like, because I explain it like this, and I hate using it as a crutch. You might be the same way, but like I'll explain it like I'm a toddler in like a man's body. Like I feel like I have like these little temper tantrums, and then sometimes I get like I'm like, oh, everything's fine. I'm cured. I'm gonna do that. Was it hard coming out with being bipolar to people?
I think in the beginning I didn't really know what it was, so I was just kind of telling people what I was going through, and then as I meet people later in my life and they don't know that history, um, they'll say, "Oh, do you want to drink with me or smoke with me?" Or it usually comes up within the first two or three times of meeting, and then uh, yeah, I'm pretty abrasive with like, no, you don't want to see that side, or you don't know what it's like to be on the other side of that. So uh, people who don't know the language around mania, and when you say manic episode, to people that are not versed in that language, that doesn't mean anything. That
Mhm.
doesn't, they don't know what that is. So, yeah, I mean, you start to say other qualifying words that they might understand, but um, yeah, for people that have not experienced like a 10 or 20-year relationship with me, if they're coming in at the 3 or 5 year mark, they don't know
Yeah.
how it gets, you know?
Yeah, and the friends that stick with you are the real ones. Some of them it's tough, but it takes two sides of it. And I'm fortunate for my group of friends that have stuck with me all these years in my pain in the ass isms.
Yeah, and friends might need to take a little break. I had some friends that did that. They're like, I just need to take some a step back. But they, the real friends, they come back, and so you see how people who are associates, maybe they're in your field, your area, or your career path, and people who are on the periphery, like I said, with the business connections, like they're not going to come back.
Yeah.
They don't know you well enough to have that track record. So
How much of a relief is it when you like get to say that to somebody like, "Oh, by the way, I deal with bipolar." Like, does that feel good, or is it like you still get a little bit nervous?
To be honest, Tim, I stopped saying it years ago. I was in a hospital and they diagnosed me with schizophrenia and schizoaffective. And I had been like on the bipolar superhero train for over 10 years, 10 to 15 years, saying it, identifying, and then they switched my label up. And then after that, I was like, well, my biggest question to the doctors was like, well, what's the difference in these diagnoses, or what is the criteria in receiving these labels? Because I mean, for me, schizophrenia is a much harsher label than bipolar. Bipolar is
Hmm.
kind of like it's more middle ground, but things get lumped in together, and so I had a lot of questions of what was the difference, or and it was like 5 years ago where I stopped kind of identifying at all with the diagnostic labels. And so when I meet someone new, I usually tell them I have a history of mental health experience, which is kind of like a blanket term that can also mean anything. But sometimes we'll talk about meds, or that I need to sleep at a certain time, or whatever cautions I take, precautions. But I actually don't use the label like I did.
That's good. I like that answer a lot.
Yeah.
You said everyone is a little bit mad. How much depends where you fall on the spectrum? How much depends on how lucky you are? How lucky are you, sir?
I say on a given day, I'm pretty lucky. There's been times in the last 10 years where people who witnessed where I was and what I was doing might have took pity, or, was like, oh, that's not someone I want to be around. So, you know, being in my home area, I am constantly reminded of these memories, like I am in a museum of my own life. And I don't know if that happens to anyone else out there that has a rich history of where they currently are. But I have a lot of memories from just like walking to work at this office, where I am, that other times, other less fortunate and more harrowing years, um, gave me experiences in those same corners. So, yeah, I mean, depending on the year.
Yeah. What are some pros of being bipolar, if there are any?
I always champion the creative element of being on the bipolar mania or mad one spectrum. For me, I stopped using the diagnostic label, but I use mad one a lot as my own fixture of kind of what I'm after. Mad one, mad being music, art, dance, or make a difference, or the creative element in especially the hypomanic edge. That is the video that most people find me as on TED, and that
Mm.
that's still the work in my world. The creative meets the mania, and where's the right balance between that? And so the creative side, whether that's writing or music or whatever your passion is, that can be a huge service to the world and to yourself as well.
How would you explain mania? I know we've been talking about it, but for someone out there that doesn't really understand it between mania and hypomania, I know mania is mostly with people with bipolar 1 and hypomania is with bipolar 2, but how would you explain mania?
Yeah, well, in recent meetings, first meetings, whether it's a date or business or whatever, I often don't use the diagnostic labels, but I will say the word hallucinations or paranoia or things like that. But everyone understands what a hallucination is. You're dreaming as your eyes are wide open, and your reality is different than those around you. And that's a lot of where I start the conversation, not to go into any past violent or criminal behavior of my own, but just to say that hallucinations will take over my day and will take over my behavior in a way that is not rational. So I kind of started with that, and that if there's a tipping point or there's an early warning sign, certain behaviors and certain actions need to be corrected to prevent it from going off the deep end.
Right. Yeah, I've been there. I've been there, my friend. We just talked about your TED Talk real quick. You tell a story about a manic episode at 16. You were Jesus Christ. Can you elaborate
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, it was a pretty basic love story of being a teenager and falling in love, and having these emotions rush through my body, and having love be a spiritual awakening in finding God with my love. And a lot of people go through this, but not everyone's first love is a spiritual experience. For me, it was a religious awakening. It was coming to terms with the cosmos being opened, this door inside of me, and finding the divine in someone else. I think love can be a opening to many things. It's the most powerful force in the universe. But you know, people experience things, all different sides of it, in whatever they are going through.
And in the TED Talk, you had a fanny pack on. I love fanny packs, but you had it on and then you
Yeah.
took it off and then you put it back on. What was that about?
Yeah, that was my little bookends. At that time, I was using the fanny pack quite a lot in my performances, my one man shows, and that was a little bit of showing you that I am a performer, and I'm acting for you, that I'm performing for you. And taking the fanny pack off was removing that veil, removing that mask, while showing my face the whole time, but removing that mask of performance. It was a glittery fanny pack, a shiny gold fanny pack. I'm going to remove that that veil and tell you who I actually am and what's going on. And then at the end, I'm going to put it back on and keep this show going, keep
I
the
like
laughs coming.
I like that a lot. It's like almost like taking the gloves off. Like, you ready for this? Because it's coming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was using the fanny pack quite a bit at that time. It still comes back sometimes, but
Yeah,
yeah,
fanny packs are legit. I'm a huge fan of that. But that was the first thing that popped out to me when I was watching that. I was like, oh, this guy's legit before you even started talking.
because I had the fanny pack.
Oh yeah.
He had a legitimate fanny pack. It must be legit.
Yeah. And you use this term mental skillness. What is that?
I just coined that. That was a poem I wrote maybe a year or two before I did that talk, and uh, the skills of being mentally ill. Just a little wordplay around the benefit and the creative side of mental illness, calling it mental skillness. People jumped on that. There was a lot of buzz around that. Even I had agents that wanted to sell like packages of talks and books around the term mental skillness. Other people ran with it. I said, "Hey, you can't run with that. That's me." So there was a lot. People ran with that. I that wasn't even that was a side for when I was doing that. That was like an aside. I was just, here's some poetic language. Here's a little schizo, like create, blending some words together. I didn't really think about it, and people really took to it. So mental skillness, yeah, that was me. That was me. That was something I came up with.
What got you into comedy and the entertainment business?
I started as a theater kid at 10 years old. I was in plays, and I was an actor. And as I grew up, I wanted to write my own lines. And a comedian is just a writer who performs what they write, along with a poet or a storyteller or a solo performer. And I've done all those fields, including being musical, writing my own lyrics in hip hop, and also different styles of music. So, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I'm always down to cover a song or cover someone else's piece, but there's nothing as therapeutic as delivering something from you. So,
Do you ever deal with imposter syndrome?
um, yeah, I mean, not really, but sometimes it's more like I've been here long enough to kind of remember how it was syndrome,
Yeah.
or remember my climb and my cooling off and my getting back into the middle zone, watching the waves of my career. There was someone who linked up with me this year for some big opportunities, and they wanted to know if I was in high demand and I was getting those opportunities. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you're here. I mean, like, there's some interviews,
Yeah.
there's some trickle down from that one video, but you climb, you cool off, you come back. Everyone has waves in their career, and everything's relative to what you've done in the past too. So,
I feel like a lot of comedians like suffer in the dark and they use humor as like a coping mechanism. Why do you think that is?
yeah, I mean, those experiences of pain and suffering can be tragically beautiful. They can be moments of self-realization, exploring those stories. For me, I find beauty in the mundane, beauty in the surreal, and making surreal observations of the everyday. And then I am remembered at certain corners of the street, walking downtown, that, oh, I used to have a hard time right there. And so there are more moments to be uncovered in location-based narratives. That's kind of my new frame of what I'm doing.
Do you ever offend people when you kind of do jokes around mental health? Do you ever run into that?
I offend people when I don't use mental health narratives mostly. Uh, but I kind of specialize in keeping it pretty clean, doing conferences, doing all ages shows. I have a very uncensored and offensive kind of way about myself, that I am only with myself in the car, in the shower. And so when I get around other people or I'm going to present, I tend to take the 10 or 20% of that filter and give you something that is more of a presentation. And I think we all do that naturally. No one is their uncensored self in public unless you are going through some serious mental skillness. So that mask is that mask is there for a reason. And as you take it off and put it back on, or experiment with the breaking of the mask, the social mask, you get all sorts of reactions from that. So,
It's probably an obvious answer, but why did you become a mental health advocate? Is it because the bipolar and the schizo?
yeah, I mean, it's really my own experience. That was the community that I wanted to help the most. That was the community that I could be a champion of my own story with. I told this last week to someone I work with, but I was at a conference and I was doing kind of my full show of all my stories around mental health, all the moments of humor. And a woman came up that was a mother and father, and she's like, "Yeah, you remind me of my son who took his own life." And you know, at that moment, I realized I was doing something bigger than myself. This story, what I am conveying, like it like really hit me when she said that, and also that I was I moved her to remind her of her family like that, and I was someone that was an inspiration for those who had passed on. So that's a part of doing the work, but you don't always think of it that way.
Right. That's very special though to have somebody come up to you and say that. It must have felt pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, it made me realize I was doing something big outside of myself, bigger than myself.
What can we do to help destigmatize mental health being so taboo? Is it things like doing stand-up comedy? What is it?
Yeah, telling your own story, number one. Number two, um, giving the empathy to those in situations where you might not have been there in the past. I know a lot of artists, but they're not all of the people that identify with being on the spectrum. My work here is to kind of bridge the arts and mental health together, but not every artist, identifies with the artistic temperament, as it's been called, or not every person that's going through something knows that there's a creative lens and a creative outlet that they can use to champion those feelings and emotions.
Do you think it's important that we focus on men's mental health as well? And why do you think it's tough for men to be so open about their mental health?
Yeah, well, I think just a stereotype, men are more emotionally closed than women. They're not going to talk about their feelings as much. I'm also a group leader in a men's circle, and it is very open. There are tears, there are hugs, and there's like deep intimacy of what men are going through. But without that, without a container like that, men are more apt to not talk about it and just kind of keep going. But yeah, we're at this age now where therapy is kind of normalized. Most people are open about sharing that they have a therapist, that they talk to someone, or maybe they have a coach that can motivate them towards the future of their goals instead of looking at the past. Whatever it is, I think that talking to someone once a week is kind of an essential part of anything, whether it's a career or your own personal growth. But during the lonely times of the pandemic, I was talking to someone every day. I had someone to call every day, and I keep them on rotation as my supporters, my support people that I was also supporting as a coach and advocate, kind of co-counseling, co-coaching. So yeah.
People forget about that. Having a support system is huge. It's tough to reach out to people, but you have to. Like, you can't do things by yourself, and you can probably agree with that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty much a one man band for most of the day until I need to call someone or advocate or ask for some advice. I have a list of mentors that I reach out. I am a mentor towards others building their artistic practice, as a coach, but also as a friend, and so that's a big part of serving others, being of service.
What does self-care look like to you, and what are some suggestions you would give to people to help better themselves?
Yeah, I'm a creature of habit. I like having a routine. I do certain exercises in the morning. I drink the same lemon water, warm every morning. I do things very dialed in that I perfected over the years and that have come recommended. But I also like changing that routine, being in a different environment, getting out of town, experiencing a new place that I can work from or visit or travel, being with new and interesting people. And recently I had a hard time just this week. It was just 2 days ago, and I didn't want to do anything. I was already here. I was already downtown, and I kind of just was feeling a deep sense of low energy. And I had a social thing that I was invited to, but I almost didn't make it. And then I pushed myself to be there. And once I was in the room with other people, could chat with people and eat something. Yeah, I mean, I find that socializing, being social, is a good like lift out of myself, my own things that I go through. So
It's so tough to, like, pull yourself together to go do that because there's so many times I don't wanna go somewhere just because I don't wanna be the wet blanket of the party or something, but that's tough. That's tough to do.
yeah, yeah, and I find because I do have a special coach that I talk with. Sometimes chatting about not what is going on, but chatting about anything, hearing another voice. I listen to a lot of radio as a radio producer, a radio guy, but hearing another voice is so settling. It settles you. Hearing a live person on the phone. For me, I'm an auditorial learner. Talking with someone is very essential to me keep going, not isolating. And so it's very simple things that we all know, but yeah, hearing another voice, connecting with another voice, um, even if it's not talking about what you're going through, could be talking about something trivial. It pulls you out of yourself.
With who you are now, what would you tell your younger 16-year-old self today?
Yeah, I might tell him there's a long road ahead, and there is several opportunities to reach for. And I would also say that there's dips and valleys along with the peaks and mountains, and to just hold on, but also to maintain yourself, your body, your mind. Think about the future. Think about your instrument of your body. Think about how you want to spend your time, and that your time is valuable. Maybe as a young person, you don't have a lot of money, but you have a lot of time. You're rich in time, your resources, your time. And where do you spend your time? Those first jobs, those first volunteer things, do what you really want to do what you're really interested in, experiment, try things, but also like know that those early years are foundational. And where you spend your time is kind of your background and your history.
Before we finish up and have a little bit of fun, where can people find you on the internets?
I started a new company in the last 2 years. It's called Mad One Media, and that's at mad1.me, MADONE.me. You can also Google Mad One Media, it pops up there. And that is my platform to engage with audio, with coaching. Anyone who wants to reach out, you can find my portfolio and reach out to me. Email is the best if you find it that far. And so look me up that way. Joshua Walters, yeah, also.
No social media?
I'm a social media person. I have the placeholders of all those accounts, but I kind of direct people to email, phone, and websites. But the social media for me is making a comeback. If you want to be a social media person for me, contact me because I need that.
I might be able to
So,
do that for you.
oh yeah, yeah. This is a little tit for tat. You know, I need some collaborations. I need some
I
collaborations.
I got you. I'm on my phone way too much anyway, so I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
definitely do that.
Also we're talking about mental health. That is a like that's how I disconnect. Is like I don't
Yeah.
participate in that. I don't get into that, or I engage. I have all the things, you know,
Yeah.
whatever they are, and I check in. You know, if someone gets at me, I check in. But yeah, I'm not a someone that is building all the things, which you know you need to be if you're creating your own business. So yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk. We
Yeah.
can work together after this. This is an interview for the job. You're
Yep.
interviewing. I'm interviewing you for the job.
Yeah,
Actually,
definitely
that's
take a
what
look
this
at
is.
look at my social media and see if it's up to par.
That's
Uh,
what this is. It's an
yeah.
interview.
What are some words of wisdom that you would give somebody out there that's going through it right now?
Yeah, I would say the most basic advice was written down. I saw it in a piece of paper at one of the places I was staying, one of the hospitals, treatment centers, and it just basically said, "No feeling is final." I think it's a Rilke German poet quote. "No feeling is final," and you can translate that to anything. Another Hebrew saying is, you know, "This too shall pass." Gom say avor. You know, like whatever it is, the good times, the bad times, it will change. You know, and so if it's the bliss of championship memories, you know, enjoy that and really relish in that because that will change. But also those deep lows, even though they might get worse, they will change for some way. They will change in some way.
Great words from a great man, man. I'm so happy that you came on to this. You're such a great person. You're doing such great things. And again, I can't thank you enough for you coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Tim. It's been a pleasure.
So let's finish with this. I like to ask some good questions to people. So
Oh
you're a
yeah,
comic. Who is on
yeah,
your personal Mount Rushmore for comics? It doesn't have to be the best. It can be contentious, but I want to hear what it is.
yeah. You know, I go with the standard, typical, you know, big names that everyone names.
Perfect.
The Chappelles, the Chris Rocks, the Richard Pryors. Lenny Bruce, George Carlin, and then personal inspiration from Steve Martin, Andy Kaufman, all the guys from that kind of legacy of that 70s, what it was. Around here, the big guy was Robin Williams, who's the only person that I was personally attributed to or you know, compared to coming up because of the regionality of it. But yeah, I think anyone who speaks the truth openly and honestly, uh, at some point it's going to be funny. So, most comedians give you that 15-second, 30-second, they need to laugh, but any story taking a long time, you're going to get to some embarrassing things. You're going to get to some humorous moments. So, yeah.
Right. Do you think Andy Kaufman's still alive?
I don't know. I actually don't know.
What's his alter ego again?
I
What
don't
is
know
his,
that much. I don't know. You tell me. What
oh,
is
what
it?
it's he has this alter ego. I forget his name. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but Andy Kaufman's great. My buddy tells me all these stories from like books he read and stuff. But yeah, he's one of the best. You're also a hip hop fan. Let's go with that. What's your Mount Rushmore of hip hop?
Yeah, Mount Rushmore, Black Thought, Mos Def, KRS-One, Rakim, Del the
Okay.
Funky Homo Sapien. That's my
Yeah, so
local Oakland.
you know your stuff. A
I
little
know my
little
stuff.
too short.
Old. Yeah. Well, being living in Oakland, you can't get around Too Short. Wherever you go in Oakland, they're playing Too Short. So even if you are not into that level of misogyny, they did name a street in Oakland, in East Oakland, after Too Short recently in the last couple of months. So
Really? That's
too
very interesting.
you can cruise Too Short way when you come to the town if you want to. If you really want to, you can sell your tapes right on Foothill and get your Too Short way experience. Just like Mr. Short did.
That is very
So
funny. And I'm
yeah.
seeing Talib Kweli coming up. He must be on your list too, with if you like Most Def and
I
Black
do
Thought.
like Talib. I do like Talib. Yeah, I have a separate list for producers because I am an audiophile. Instrumental hip hop is my favorite genre of sampling and everything, like
Yeah.
Madlib, Dilla, of course, Dre, Timberland, Dan the Automator. That's my local representative. And then all the guys that came out of Hyro, like A Plus, Pep Love, and all the guys that produce those really, you know, those beats that get you going. Prince Paul.
What about the beats from the Beastie Boys? I feel like they sample everybody.
Yeah, well, Paul's Revere 1989 has the most samples in it of any album, I think, in the history. I think there was like 420, 512 samples, says my hip hop uncle mentor. We go into this, but there's more samples in that than anything. But yeah, the Sound Rich, they were the Sound Rich,
Speaking of
boys.
music, what would your
Yeah.
personal theme song be? Think of like a UFC fighter, a baseball player, like you're coming out, Joshua Walter's name gets hit. What song's being played?
Yeah, the Kings. I sent it to you. The Kings. eh, Not it wasn't. It was the Kings anthem. What was it? I had to look it up. You
Oh,
remember?
you tell me. Now you tell me. I did look it up. I listened to it. I just copied and pasted in there.
Oh, I can't believe I
Oh
have
no,
to
here
go
it
to the
is. I
phone
got
for this.
it's
No, heck.
Inico, the King's Affirmation.
The King's Affirmation. It's one of those tracks that, yeah, it came on the King's Affirmation. Yeah, yeah,
So
the King's Affirmation.
it's pretty good. I like it. It's pretty chill in a way as well.
Yeah, I like chill music. I like kind of, what is that? The East Coast lamping. If I'm lamping, I like to lamp.
I'm lamp.
Yeah, lamping. But yeah, I like chill. I like chill. But it is anthemic. The King's Affirmation. I want to say the name. I want to say the name of the artist too.
Is it Inico or
Inico.
Anico?
Yeah, Inico. Inico. Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. Didn't do my homework. I have to look to the phone for that one. But it's not. It's that one track is like, yeah. It's like a motivator.
Hit you in the feels, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah. I got a lot of tracks like that. I listen to a lot of radio, get a lot of songs, local radio. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of DJs I listen to that uh
The
give
un
me the download.
the unsung heroes of music, the DJs.
Well, the DJs are the original tastemakers. They're the people that break those artists and originally on those big stations, they were the ones that introduced the masses to a certain artist, so they're the ones that expose you. The radio DJ is the one that exposes you to something you've never heard before. And now it's the algorithm. I still go back to the old radio. We have some great radio stations here that specialize in underground music and also very eccentric, very eclectic tastes in all sorts of genres. So always exploring new genres.
Fantastic. Let's end with this. What are 3 things that you're grateful for today?
Today, I wrote them down. I am grateful to be doing a group today in San Francisco for artists who want to champion their arts with the mental health, calling it Artist State of Mind. And I'm grateful that I have some confirms that people are showing up to that. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I am celebrating my home area and that I know that there are other areas in the world that I can be at with digital nomading and getting out there and being in other places. I don't have to be here if I don't want to. I can be somewhere else. And Tim, I'm just grateful that you had me on and that I have this interview to talk with you and be a part of your show today. So that's what I'm grateful for.
That means a lot to me. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you.
That's been another episode of 20 Minutes. Let's break the stigma by cracking a smile. I will see you guys soon.
Round 1, fight.
Even better. I like when people don't listen to my podcast because they don't know what they're getting into. So I do this with all my guests before we get going. It's a great way to get the spirits up. I play a game of 2 out of 3 rock, paper, scissors. Would you like to play against me, sir?
Sure, let's do it.
Hell yeah. So I'll call it, I do rock, paper, scissors, shoot. People have it differently. I do it the right way.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Yep, perfect. And I'm going to keep my eyes closed because there might be a delay. So I'm going to be honest about it. So, all right.
Okay. Rock,
paper,
scissors, shoot.
He rocks. Yours has a thumbs up. I like it.
Two rocks.
All right.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Ooh, 1-0. 1-0.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh.
Would you have paper?
Paper, 2 papers.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's do it again.
Okay.
Rock,
papers,
scissors, shoot.
Oh, I beat you.
Rock, 1-1. 1-1.
I figured you out.
Getting contentious. It's getting contentious.
Okay.
Rock,
papers, scissors, shoot. It's 2 papers again.
Oh,
yeah,
I was gonna go rock.
One trick, one. Okay.
Rock, papers,
scissors,
shoot.
2 scissors again.
Oh, this is getting good.
Yeah, this is a long one. Okay. Rock,
papers,
scissors,
shoot.
Oh, you beat me.
Yeah, the comeback.
You beat me.
Oh,
that was a long game.
That was
a long game.
That's one of the longest games I've played. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. If you are feeling suicidal, please dial 911.